Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to the For Real Though Show. I'm your host, Christopher Keith. Hey, if you like the show, remember you can subscribe on our YouTube channel at the number four Real Though Show. That's all one word. The number four, REALTHOSHOW. So, again, thanks for joining me. We are in the midst of our fourth part of my complicated relationship with Christianity. And in this episode, I'll explain to you where my faith is right now based on my experiences before and what my beliefs are and whatnot. So here we go. I believe the best place to start is December 24th, 2009. Okay, December 24th, 2009. As it so happens, I had really been going through a lot of depression the last few months before that, leading up to that day. As a matter of fact, it had gotten really, really bad the weeks leading up to that day. So much so that I was really thinking about checking up out of here. And it wasn't a real dramatic thing. As a matter of fact, it was something that I even talked to my mother about. And I would just tell her, Mom, I'm not upset or anything. I'm just tired. I remember telling her I'm just tired. And, she was, I can't even imagine how she felt. Uh, because it's not the first time I had gone through something like that deeply, but it had been the first time in well over 20 years. So, uh, but she kept encouraging me. Actually, she just kept saying, "Baby, it's gonna be all right. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be all right." And as I remember, like after Thanksgiving and into December, I remember she just kept saying, "Don't worry about it. I got you." And so I remember around the teens, December, around the teens or so, she just kept saying, "I got you, I got you." So yeah, like I said, it was pretty bad. And so it got to the point where I guess so on the 24th, that was the day that I decided, that was it. You know, I said to myself, hey, I'm gonna check out of here. And the way I was gonna do it, and the reason I'm explaining this all is because I think it's important just to be honest about it because you just never know who else is listening and who could benefit, from somebody else being honest about it. So that's why I'm being transparent like I am. So anyway, so I got myself liquored up, and I decided that I was gonna run my car off of a bridge, off of 270, eastbound, like going towards Illinois. And I remember that day because it just rained all day. Like it really just super poured rain that whole entire day. And but like I said, I got myself liquored up and I was tired and I just felt like that was it. So I'm telling you, it was like literally within minutes of me walking out the door, there was a knock on the door. And I'm standing there by it and I opened it. And when I opened it, my mother was standing there along with my sister Darcel. So I just remember like I couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't believe it. For those who don't know, my mother lives in Los Angeles, and I don't even remember the last time I seen her before that. But again, we had talked a lot. We've always talked a lot. Um, but she just, without even telling me, she just showed up. She showed up, and there she is. Of course, she's dressed to the nines. I think she had on a mink or something. She was clean as could be. But none of that phased me. I remember it in my vision, but I don't, none of that phased me at the moment because when I saw her, I just broke down. I literally just broke down. What do you mean when you broke down? I mean, I hit the floor. Like I hit the floor like lightning had hit me. And I just started crying. I just started crying like a baby because uh, for one, I was ashamed. I was ashamed because I didn't want my mother to see me like that. Because on that particular day, I really felt like this is the lowest day of my life. That's how I felt. That's how I felt. I felt like this is the lowest day of my life. I'm shit faced drunk. Uh, and I just didn't want her to see me that way. Like, I just didn't want her to see me that way. The second part, though, of why I was bawling like a baby is because she was there. And I felt like she showed up, like she showed up for me. You know what I mean? I didn't ask her to come. I didn't ask her to wild out or anything about it, about like that. But she showed up and she was there. And so I got these two conflicting things going on at the same exact time. Like I was just blown away that, here my mother is, right here. And so I remember on the ground, she just stooped down and, she caressed me and she talked to me and encouraged me and told me it was going to be all right, son. I got you. I got you. I'm here. As a matter of fact, I even remember her telling me a couple weeks later, because she stayed for a few weeks and she hadn't retired yet. And I remember asking her, hey, mom, when you going back to work? And she said, I told them I'll be back when I get back. When my son is all right, I'll come back. But anyway, that was the day that my mother saved my life. So that's how I have to start this particular podcast is by saying that where my faith is now, a lot of that is based on my mother saving my life, because she literally saved my life by showing up. Yeah, hope this don't get to her too much when she sees this, but that's just the truth, and I've thanked her a bunch of times before that. So anyway, uh, after we had our few moments, on the floor there, uh, we talked. My sister was there as well, and we talked, and they called my doctor, my personal doctor, who I've always been very close to. Uh, Even though he's my doctor, I consider him a friend, and he got on the phone, and he was cool as the other side of the pillow, like he always is. Hey Chris, I understand. I think you should check yourself in, and get some help, seek some treatment and whatnot. And so, I don't recall fighting it really. I think most of the time, I think the normal reaction is to kind of fight or flight. In this case, it would be flight. But I agreed. Like I agreed. I was like, it's cool. I'll go. And so I remember they called the ambulance. Ambulance showed up, and then so I went to the hospital, and then so it was my mother, my sister, and then my aunt Eleanor. Rest in power. Rest in power. My aunt Eleanor showed up as well, uh, and yeah. So anyway, so I checked myself in, and it really gave me a lot of time to think. I remember reading a book, read Andre Agassi's book that was called Open, and he had experienced a lot of depression himself, which I never knew when I picked the book up. But I took that book with me. I read it, and I just remember, those few days over the holiday. Uh, I just remember, like, I remember my mother coming to visit, and I was really broken. And I remember, like, at one point, I was just laying in her lap like a child, and I was just crying. Like I was just letting it all out, everything that had been built up. I was just letting it all out. And again, she was just there, rock solid, to talk, to listen, and, to encourage me. And she kind of teased me because one time I think I wasn't really eating, and she asked me to go ahead and eat, and I was like eating this meal that they gave me like a savage, She probably remember that. And so that was the first step. So I stayed there for a few days, finally got released. I wasn't necessarily in a hurry to get released, but when it was time to go, however many days it was, I was cool with it. So they sent me away with instructions to go to group therapy. So I went to group therapy. Uh, that wasn't too far from the hospital. So the group therapy, I really didn't know what to expect, but when I showed up, there were a lot of other people there that were just like me, except some of them had actually gone through with their steps, if you will, because there were people who had their wrists bandaged up, both wrist bandaged. Matter of fact, there was at least two of them, two in my group of about 6, maybe 8 that had their wrist bandaged up. And, in the group therapy, we all talked about, kind of what we were going through, what we were feeling. And it wasn't like a boo-hoo session or anything. It was just where people talk. And what ends up happening in that environment is instead of thinking about yourself, you start thinking about, the person next to you, the person across from you. And, it was really a blessed thing. It was really a blessed thing. And I just remember having so much compassion in my heart for these other people, and realizing that I wasn't alone, realizing that, a lot of things go on in this world and people are struggling, all the time. So did that for a few weeks. Again, that was very fruitful. I think we had workbooks and stuff. I don't remember all the details. Again, it was quite a long time ago, but we did our thing there, and then I said, this would be a good time for some one-on-one therapy. And as a matter of fact, I remember the person at the group therapy place was telling me that she thought it would be a good idea. So kind of stuck because I don't have insurance. I don't remember. I really don't remember if I was working at the time. I think I was. I think I was working at the time. Yeah, I was working. I was working in Earth City at this company in Earth City at the time. But anyway, my insurance wasn't all that. So uh, I ended up calling a place that went by your income. And man, you know what? I'm sorry, I have to go back. I don't think I was working because it's the only way I could find a place that went by my income. Anyway, so I called a place that goes by your income, and they had offices like in Florissant. I ended up setting up an appointment, and I met with a woman. Her name was Frances J. Thomas, who I affectionately call Miss Frances. So Miss Frances, uh, older Black lady. She was actually a counselor of counselors, meaning that she taught counselors. Okay, and she was fantastic. She was a mother and an elder of the highest order. That's just all. That's the best way I could tell you. Well, anyway, so my first session with her, I'm sitting in there with her and we're talking. Well, I'm talking. She's like, so tell me about yourself, Christopher, this, that, and the other. And so, I'm telling her, I'm talking to her for about 20 minutes. And so then she asked if she could interject, which I said fine. And so I guess for the next 20, 25 minutes, she talked, except she completed everything else that I was thinking. So I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So she was completing my sentences, my thoughts, everything, and just breaking stuff down for me, my condition, where I was, how I was thinking about life, how I was thinking about situations. She talked about my childhood without me even telling her about it. Like it was just a lot of things that she knew based on little things I told her, which I find interesting because I was talking to a brother on social media not long ago because he's been going through depression, anxiety, and this and the other. And I told him, I said, hey man, I'll help you find somebody, but you don't need to go through this alone. And a lot of Black people, Black men, they think that it's weak to go talk to somebody. And like I told him though, I said, hey man, there's a science to this. There's a science to the brain. There's really nothing out here new, so it's nothing for you to be afraid of and hide. As a matter of fact, like I said, I will help you. Well, he hadn't got to that point yet, but it's cool, it's cool. Well, anyway, so you know, I was at that state again of it, kind of interviewing, and I told him, hey, you can interview these people. It's not just a one-way street where you just got to take whatever, if you find out if it's a right fit for you. So I thought Miss Frances was a right fit for me. She said that she thought I was a right fit for her. As a matter of fact, she told me this straight up. She said, hey, I'm at the point in my career where I'm winding down and I don't deal with people unless God sends them to me. So if I don't believe that God sent you to me, then I wouldn't have received you. But hey, it worked out. And let me tell you, it was the greatest thing ever to sit down and have counsel with her, to talk to her. She really helped me see a lot of things. She helped me work through grief. She helped me work through depression, anxiety. She helped me love myself, which was really a big key to everything, to love myself and to accept myself for who I was. So, growing up, because I knew I was a little different, I knew my brain worked a little differently, I was kind of an outsider. I wasn't a nerd per se, but I wasn't popular. So I was sort of social purgatory. And then I had a bunch of issues growing up, some of which I've already talked about, and those things affect you. So, I used to say to myself, how come I can't be hard? How come I can't be uncaring like some people are? How come I have to have all these feelings and emotions and thoughts about things? Why do I have to care about people so much? Why do I have to think so deeply about things? And I used to hate that about myself because it just felt like it caused nothing but hurt. Uh, but Miss Francis taught me that, hey, that was me. That was my gift. As a matter of fact, that's what made me really effective in talking to other people, having compassion for other people, ministering to other people, by either having a listening ear or hella great advice, because I was touched. I could be touched like they're touched and feeling what they feel. So yeah, I could tell you that in my 20s and 30s, I really wasn't a man. I didn't believe that I was a man per se. I was an adult with responsibilities. That's how I felt. But as far as manhood, I didn't feel like I was really a man. And that's kind of why, even in church, I sought out men to, help, mentor and tutor me because I wanted that. I wanted to have that sense of what it felt like to be a man. Well, Miss Francis, really taught me to accept myself as a man, to love myself as a person and as a man. And, she gave me the tools that I needed to be able to work through, my issues. And, so it was great. We actually got very close. So close that, it got to a point that, she would share some things with me about her own life, and, she even gave me her son's phone number because she wanted us to be in touch. So, and the last thing I can say about Miss Francis was this: is how cold Miss Francis was. She had retired, but I didn't know she retired. So, but I called her. I had her personal cell number, and I called her, and I was in a bad place. It was on a Saturday, and I remember saying, the phone had rang, a bunch of times, but the voicemail never picked up. So she picked up the phone finally, and she did. She sounded like she was really, 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 really out of it. And she goes, "Baby, if you just give me about 20 minutes and call me back, I'll talk to you." And I was like, yes, ma'am, no problem. So I mean, I literally waited 20 minutes and hit her back, right? And so I hit her back. And so I called, I was like, Miss Francis, I'm sorry to call you like this, blah, blah, blah. And I told her what was on my mind, what was going on. And so she sat there and talked me through it. Again, she talked me through it. And I thanked her. I told her I hope she felt better because I could tell she was really out of it. And man, come to find out 2 days later, that was a Saturday. On that following Monday, man, Miss Francis passed away. Well, little did I know, Miss Francis not only retired, uh, she had cancer. And she never told me. She never intimated that she was sick. Now, in our last few sessions, I could tell she was a little bit off, but there was nothing, she let on nothing that would let me know that she was that sick. And I thought to myself, man, here she is on her deathbed, man. She's on her deathbed. And yet she took the time out to counsel me over the phone. Now look, I can't even tell you, look, that woman is heroic in my book. You understand? Like she would go in the annals of my heart forever because she was about that life. She was about that ministry life. So, even in that experience, that brought me that started to bring to me, coming out of that, coming out of those experiences between church, depression, uh, really crappy decisions in life, some good decisions in life. I don't want to make it as if I did everything wrong, because I didn't, but a lot of, really crappy decisions. And once I came to peace with who I was as a man, as a person, accepted those things, then I began to have a concept of what I can accept for who God is for me. And this is who God is for me. So that brings me to where we are now. So picture the earth. Okay, picture the earth and picture how it's revolving on its axis and it's turning. And as it's turning, everything that's supposed to happen in the earth is already happening. So you got trees, you got fish, wildlife, you got everything in the ecosystem that makes this world go round, right? You have the earth revolving around the sun, which will make a year, and all that good stuff, right? And everything that's supposed to happen happens. So think of the solar system. Think of every other planet out there, every other star, like everything's out there that we can witness and say, hey, wow, look at that great work out there, something that you couldn't do. And there's already an order to what's going on. So in other words, to try to make it as simple as possible, in other words, if there's grass on the field, then there's grass on the field because it was already in motion. Things were already in motion for that grass to be on the field. And the way I believe the universe works. So when I say universe, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean God, I mean the architect, however way you want to say it. But the way the universe works, there's an order. It's already moving. It's already moving. It was moving before you got here. It'll be moving after you leave, right? It's already moving. There's a course that it's already taken. Okay. And as a result, things are happening because they're supposed to happen because of the way the earth and the galaxy is moving. Okay. That's whether you get the seasons and the sun, you get this spring, winter, summer, fall, April showers, May flowers, and all that. So here's where I see myself in that I'm a part of that. The universe created that, me in that space. Okay. And as a person of quote unquote free will, if you will, then I can do one or two things. I can either get in line with how the earth and the universe is already flowing to fit in the way I'm supposed to fit in, or I could go against it and do my own thing. So for me, I believe that life is figuring out the key to life on this earth is figuring out where you fit in, where you fit into this universe, and then you getting hooked up or sucked up, if you will, in that motion that's already going. Okay. In other words, nobody has to pray that there be spring. Nobody has to pray that the sun comes up in the morning. Nobody has to pray that you see the moon at night. Those things are already going. Okay. And so nobody has to say to the lion, oh, the lion don't have to get up and pray about getting himself something to eat. He gonna go get it, right? Same way, trees, vegetation, the ecosystems, the fish, they all do what they're supposed to do. They do what they were designed to do to fulfill their own purpose. And I believe that life for humans anyway, for me, the way I take it, is getting yourself in that place where you're flowing like the universe is already flowing. And that's where your happening is going to be. That's where your get down is going to be. So I guess to that degree where I differ from the church or Christianity is that I do believe in the creator. I don't believe that all of this is happenstance. I don't believe that life came from nothing. Okay, I don't believe that. And so, but the difference is I guess I'm not trying to waste a whole lot of time trying to figure out in my brain who the architect is in terms of defining it. Okay, because you're talking about a whole, you're not talking about just the earth here. We're talking about a whole solar system. If we are to believe that there is a divine architect, of the whole universe, if there's a divine architect of the whole universe, then you're not going to be able to wrap your brain around it, and define it as one thing. So that's where I differ, because I don't look at that great divine architect as something to be viewed from a religious perspective, if that makes sense. So in other words, I don't believe that the architect of the universe is like, hey, y'all, it's about me. Praise me, worship me. If you want success, come to me. If you don't come to me, I'll condemn you to eternal damnation. See, I don't believe that. If I am to believe, for instance, that there is life on other planets, which I do, I don't believe that humans are the only intelligent life to ever dawn the universe. If I'm to believe that, then and I'm to believe that things are the way Christianity or Islam even would teach me, then I would have to believe that Christ showed up on other planets. Christ died for other alien beings, that there was a fall, there was an Adam, and then there was a fall, and then he had to do this all over the place. So either A, Jesus would have to just be Jesus over this earth, and that's it, which would make him not be the architect of the universe, or he'd have to be the same thing to everybody across the whole entire universe. So that's where I split off. So it's not that I don't believe in creation. It's not that I don't believe in evolution, because I do believe in both. There's there's everything about science, and what we already see tells us that there is evolution. Things do evolve. People evolve, right? So there are animals that evolve based on the need to survive in society, in their society. So even a polar bear has different claws and mitts, if you will, paws and whatnot, from a brown bear. And that polar bear, his paws keeps him from sliding on the ice. So he can maneuver, hunt, do whatever he got to do on that ice, different from another bear. So there's evolution right there, that people, things, and beings are going to adapt to their environment. That's evolution. Okay, but again, doesn't mean that I believe that life in itself started from zilch, zero, poof, an explosion, and then life just appeared as if there was no architect behind it. If I look at my body, if I look at the sophistication of my eyes, the ability to see, taste, smell, touch, all of that, feel, have emotions, figure things out, contemplate, uh, reason, those are all things of intelligence. And yeah, you know, obviously from the time we started on this earth to the time we are now, we've obviously gained more knowledge, uh, done more, been able to do more scientific experiments and whatnot. So, obviously we're evolving. So there's a case for evolution, uh, and I believe it all has its proper place. So with that being said, okay, so how do I see God? Well, I see God, hey, I see God everywhere. This is where I'm at in my life. I see God in the sunrise and in the sunset. I see God in children playing. I see God in unconditional love and acceptance. I see God in a trusted friendship or family. Um, I see God in the acts of forgiveness, again, love and acceptance. I see God in science, as I talked about before. I don't believe that science disproves God. I believe that science confirms God in terms of confirming what you couldn't do, confirming what you were only discovering, what's already there. It's not like, I'm saying, it's not like the Columbus BS, you know what I mean? You discovering something that's there and then you like, hey, I discovered it. No, it was already there. You just happen to come upon it. And that is so it is for science, and every medical breakthrough that we've gotten, it's because of science figuring out based on the tools that are already on the earth to make medicine, to heal, uh, to provide, comfort, medicine, et cetera, et cetera. So I see God, and my uncle who passed away some years ago, Big Jesse, shout out. He used to sit in his living room, listen to James Cleveland, and he used to, be back there getting it. I mean, just listening to Silas tapping his foot, and he listened to them old James Cleveland spirituals and stuff, and he scream out just randomly, just different yes sir and all right now, and this, that, and the other, and he would be in his zone. So I see God in that because he was a man of great integrity. He loved his family, raised 6 kids, and he was that guy. He was the Duke, he was the man. He was the big dog, and so he lived his life that way, and that's how he got his meditation on. Okay, but I also see God in Aretha Franklin, when she sings Bridge Over Troubled Water, when she goes, don't trouble the waters, leave it alone. Why don't you let it be? Still waters run deep. Yes, it do. Oh yeah, if you only believe. Hey, look, that's God as far as I'm concerned. She didn't write that song, but she sashayed that song. And if you ask me, hey man, as far as female voices go, Aretha's the GOAT. That's a sidebar. But when I hear the gift of that voice singing a song to such magnitudes and levels of can touch your heart, like, I remember, like, it's not uncommon for me to sit up and listen to music late at night. I especially did this a lot when I was in St. Louis. I'd be like 1, 2:30 in the morning, just listening to music, just whatever came to my head. And I listened to Aretha Franklin singing Ain't No Way. And I remember just like, even though I heard the song 1,000 times, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time. And I would just burst into tears, just, man, I can't, like, this is just, I hear her whole heart in this song. And so to me, that's God. A friend of mine was talking the other day about Betty Wright's. She's got like No Pain, No Gain. She's got Pain, No Pain, No Gain, and then After the Pain. So in this After the Pain song, she's talking about keeping her marriage together and how she started to get out, because she wasn't satisfied, things weren't going the way she wanted it to, but she hung in there, and that God was going to bless her for hanging in there. And if her man didn't do right by her, that God was going to deal with him. And see, to me, that's God. If you hear that song, I mean, she was preaching. And it's funny because my boy told me, he was like, man, I heard that song, man, I was with my daddy. I heard that song, man, it's like, man, some tears welled up in my eyes. And so I listened to the song after he told me that on my way home. And I'm on the freeway and I'm really listening to this song. Like, I'm really listening to her talking. And I'm like, so when you listen to the song, hey, listen to it on your own time. When you listen to it, I'm telling you, man, she preaching. She is preaching. She preaching the gospel. But it's like, because it's not in a gospel setting, we don't see it. We don't see that God is in that. Like, God is speaking to us in that. There's healing in that. There's restoration in that. No different than any James Cleveland, CeCe Winans, Yolanda Adams. It's really, it's just not tailored for that religious style, but it's still God. I see God in Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. I see God in Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. Like, I do. I do. You know, and I can tell you this, my life has just gotten so much brighter since I started to realize and understand God in people's gifts, in people's hearts, in people's minds. Uh, I tell you what, here's what I believe. Like, so I watched John Lewis's memorial service today. And here's a man who I believe did exactly what he was supposed to do. He did exactly what he's supposed to do in life. And that is my goal. So as I see myself, and I've come to accept myself, even doing this podcast, it is a way of to say that, hey, I'm going to do exactly what I'm supposed to do to the best of my knowledge and ability. I'm not looking for God outside of me. I see that God is within me anytime I am caught up in the flow of the universe, doing the things that I'm supposed to do, the way I'm supposed to do it, that which my heart is telling me. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So uh, when I look at John Lewis, I see that he did what he was supposed to do. Now, how can you get more God than that? How can you get more doing what you're supposed to do than that? Not necessarily just him becoming a congressman or an ordained minister or, crossing the bridge of Selma. It's not just about that. It's just that he did his part. So my part may not be to be great in that way or to be a celebrity or to be have my name, known around the world. But my part is to do what I'm supposed to do to the best of my knowledge and ability, to live that fully, without regret, without shame, uh, through the ups and the downs, to always live on that edge, to not be afraid because it's what I'm supposed to do. And I believe that that's God. That's God. So when I have these conversations with my friends or with my wife, you know, um, anytime I'm letting my light shine by doing what I'm supposed to do, by flowing with the universe, like there's always already a witness in my heart and in my mind that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I get the ultimate joy and satisfaction out of that. The ultimate joy and satisfaction. So, why I think that we are taught to look for God, whether it's in the Bible, whether it's in church or a synagogue, a mosque. I think those things are all good in terms of coming together. They're good in terms of getting some synergy, some togetherness. It's nothing like having, more than one gathered. You know what I mean? Two or three gathered, and all going for the same thing, all going for the same goal, all there for the same reason. That's a beautiful and powerful thing that can't be matched. However, uh, but it didn't need you don't need that building to make that happen. I don't believe that. I believe that you know, hey, one of the most beautiful things you can watch is like a football team. And if you see the linemen, whether it's on offense or defense, everybody do what they're supposed to do and execute as a team, as a unit, then that's where you see the success because they practiced together, they bled together, they sweated together, they planned together, they made mistakes together, they corrected those mistakes together. And through trial and error and getting better, getting your technique better and all that, then you begin to see pieces of success. So if you can get the ball from 1 yard to the next yard, that's based on teamwork. Same teamwork is that you get, in church. That camaraderie is the same thing you get on a football team, a basketball team, a baseball team, or a singing group. Excuse me, a singing group. All of those things make up, what I see as expressions of God. Anytime, you're not selfish and you're adding something to someone else, I see that as God. So now with that being said, I want to move to understanding that, hey, that's not shade. Again, it's not shade in the church. That's not shade on the church. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna give big props to the church. As a matter of fact, let me really keep it 100 with you. I'm giving props to the black church, okay? Because ever since the beginning, when we came over on these shores and Christianity was presented to us from an American perspective, hey, it was done to subjugate us, to keep us docile, to keep us weak, to keep us impotent, okay, and powerless. It enslaved. But as the genius that Black people are, we turned those scriptures, we turned that Bible into something that worked for us. So instead of saying, stopping at, hey, slaves, obey your masters, we all here over here like, let my people go, right? So we did what it took to make that work for us. Same way through Jim Crow, through Civil Rights era. The church, the Black church, is where we had the meetings. It's where we did the planning. It's where we did the strategic planning to have a Voting Rights Act. It's where businesses were started. It's where we kept people safe when a lynch mob was looking for them. These are the bedrock and the foundation. So when they say we come this far by faith, that's what it's talking about. You know, a lot of my heroes, Reverend Fred L. Shuttlesworth, Martin Luther King Jr., C.T. Vivian, John Lewis, these guys came out of the church, and without them, without their foundation, I wouldn't be here today to have this conversation with you. So their blood, their sacrifice, their worship, their praise, their congregating, that was the magic that they made by coming together. And the church, the Bible, those hymns and all that, those were all an extension. Those were all tools of which they used to come together, to unify, to make a better place for me, for you. So, you know, again, I'm a product of faith of my mother. My mother always tells me she prays for me, my sister. And, you know, so it's not like, you know, again, it's not a hating. You know, I don't hate on the church. Matter of fact, I love the church. That's why I'm hard on the church. Okay. And so, you know, that's kind of the difference of where I am. And I guess the best thing I can say is, you know, again, I guess, okay, so put it this way. This is how much I embrace church, because again, I believe it's a tool. Sorry, I didn't understand. I'm sorry, that's my phone. Let me get that. You don't need to understand. Sorry, hold on. Okay, anyway. So like say for instance, you know, when my wife and I we have dinner, hey, every single time, this is our prayer. She prays. Come Lord Jesus, be thou our guest. Let everything we see be blessed. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm like, amen. You know, when I go to when I go to First AME Church, my mother's church in Los Angeles, which is the oldest AME church, which is the oldest Black church, Western Mississippi, you know, or my family in Columbus, their AME Zion Church. Like we got this part where you go up to the altar and you know kneel down, and that's your time with God. So this is a time again where I pour it all out. And you might see me crying or whatever, you know, but I'm going all the way in with it. And it's a beautiful thing, because that's God to me too, because that's what I'm there for. In other words, God, I'll say this soon, and maybe it'll make more sense when I explain it, but God knows what his name is. So whether you call him, whatever you call him is what you call him, but God knows what his name is. But that being said, so moving on, because I do love the church, because I do care for the church, because I do appreciate the church for everything that is done for me. Then I do have some, you know, I do have some advice for the church, some things I would like to see happen. First and foremost, I believe the Black church needs to stop carrying the water for white evangelicals. You know, I remember going to church in St. Louis, and this was during like when Bush was running, and he said, this is Raphael Green, he said, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I wouldn't vote for nobody who's for abortion. And I thought to myself, because this is between Bush 1, this is between Bush 2, 1 and Bush 2, 2, you know, before his second term. And I remember thinking to myself, well, damn. So Colin Powell had already went out there and sold his soul, saying that, you know, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and all that kind of stuff. We got Iraqis dying, innocents. We got military troops are dying over a lie. And yet that doesn't move Raphael Green, Pastor Raphael Green, to say anything. That's not a moral issue for him. But babies or embryos are that are unborn are a priority for him. Now, don't get me wrong. Hey, if that's you, that's you. I ain't got no problems if you're pro-life. But my thing is, if you're gonna be pro-life, you got to be pro-life across the board. You can't be like, I'm pro-life, except when they're born, then you're ratchet, helping you. You shouldn't have had the baby. I'm not helping you with my taxpayers' dollars. You shouldn't have had the baby. You should be more responsible. You know, you can't be pro-life and then pro somebody getting put to death where they didn't commit the crime. You probably can't be pro-death penalty, period. If you're gonna be pro-life, you're gonna be pro-life. You know, you gotta be across the board. So we carrying white folks, white evangelicals water, but they're not carrying water for us. See what I'm saying? We let them decide for us what our moral integrity is about. We let them tell us LBGT community is wrong. We let them tell us, well, we need to vote against their interests. You know, when them white folks ain't even trying to get other white folks to vote for our interests. Like, that's crazy. I mean, listen. They want to be right for life, but they're not pro voting rights for us. So in all these red states, since the Voting Rights Act was abolished, they're doing all these things. I mean, look, Georgia, Texas, cutting all the polls down. They're doing all these things that affect our lives, yet they say they're pro-life. So where did we, as Black Christians, start carrying the water for white evangelicals that vote and act against us? Against us. That's one thing. Another thing is that our messages have to be relevant. If we're going to teach and preach in the pulpit, these messages need to be relevant to what's going on today. Okay. And I would expect that whether you were in Somalia, Uganda, South America, whatever, because guess what? Moses spoke to the things that were going on in his area. Jesus spoke to the things that was going on in his area at the time, and so did Paul. But yet I hear a lot of messages today that if you listen to church message, you would know whether it was 2020 or 1920, because it's the same old warmed over BS messages, as if nothing else is going on, as if people ain't out here protesting. Like, so in other words, if people are protesting, what is the word saying about that? How are we as Christians going to react to that? Where are we going to stand on that? Okay. And this whole thing about, church and state, yeah, it should be separated. There's good reason for it. But for these white evangelicals, it ain't. You dig? It ain't. So they're going to lobby to get the things done that they want to get done. Okay. They get the judges they want to get done. They want to get nominated for their own reason. So again, these people want religious freedom, but they don't want us to have just regular old freedom. And so how you gonna have religious freedom and no real freedom? That's crazy. But again, we got caught up because we let them define for us where our moral integrity should stand. And so that's another thing. So other than that, I would say, last thing we need to do is make sure that, we're teaching a progressive message. Okay, because I hear about a lot of people say they're conservative. I'm a conservative Christian. And to that, I'm like, it just don't make sense. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. Everything else in your life is either progressive or it's regressive. It's really not stay the same. Nothing stays the same. Everything changes. It's either going forward or it's going backward. Okay. So you got people saying, hey, I'm conservative, yet they talk on the telephone that's got a computer inside of it. It's not like they sitting there with the can, in the hose. They are using what started off as a foundation for a telephone system, and that foundation has been built upon layer by layer by layer to get what we got today. Okay, same way with a vehicle, an automobile. You start off with the Model T or something like the Model T, and then you progress. And with each progression, the foundation is the same, yet the progression makes it even better. It makes it even more efficient. It makes it even more, hopefully nowadays, more environmentally friendly, right? So you start from one area, you go to another. Now, Jesus was that way too, believe it or not. Because why? He said he came to fulfill the law, okay, right? I came to fulfill the law. And at the same time, he gave an example and was like, hey, but let me kick it to you this way. You've heard it said that if you screw with another man's wife, you committed adultery. But I tell you, if you look at a woman and lust after her in your heart, then you've already done it. You've already done it. So if you would just be merely conservative, you would say, well, Jesus, that's BS. Because, the law says I'd have to, go in there like that. But Jesus is like, no, I say this. So he's saying that there's a foundation, but yet we build it on it. We build it on it. I gave you the foundation for a reason. Okay. But we're not just going to stay there and live there for all eternity. Okay. But if you think about it, so again, TVs, cars, refrigerators, houses, plumbing. Okay. Are y'all trying to use outhouses or whatever they was using back in Jerusalem, 2,000 years ago? No. Some people now, they got the bidets, spray the water up there. You dig? So everything is progressive. Everything is progressive or regressive. So why wouldn't your gospel, why wouldn't your communications, your edifications from an almighty God, if you will, who created the whole universe, why would it be regressive? Why would it not be progressive? Why wouldn't you be? But again, it just makes sense to me. I think the Bible says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So again, if we kicking ass here on earth with all these progressions, again, sanitation wise, everything is progressive. But we want to act like being conservative is something to be proud of. No, everything should be, because it doesn't mean that every new ideal is right. It just means that everything should be checked. It's okay to check it if it's new. Hey, I've told my son, Alex, who's a very devoted Christian, I say, hey man, always remember, don't be afraid to question your faith. Never be afraid to question your faith. Because guess what? If it's right, then you'll be that much more satisfied that you were right. If you find out you were wrong, well, guess what? Hey, you just gotten better. You just gotten better. Either way, you win. Either way, you win. But you have to be courageous. You have to be courageous to question the things that you've always thought. It's not easy for people. It's not easy for people because if they question one thing, sometimes if you question one thing, it can be so significant that if you question it, then you have to question a whole bunch of other stuff. And let me tell you, a lot of people are afraid of that. And I've run into that, all of my life. I run into that all of my life. So anyway, so as I close, I'll say this. When I say I'm not a Christian, it's not because I'm anti-Christian. It's because most people who consider themselves Christians wouldn't consider me a Christian, because I don't believe that, hey, if you don't say Jesus, 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 or if Jesus is not, your main focus, then you're not a Christian. So since they define me that way, so I'm going to define myself that way, that, hey, no, I'm not a Christian. But again, I'm not anti-Christian. Again, I can participate in a Christian church, have a great time, get a lot out of it, and it's all good. Because again, I'm not anti-Christian, but I remain independent to the degree that I'm satisfied with seeing God the way I see God in everyday interactions, and every thought that I have that's positive. And every time I'm caught up in the universe in a way that's befitting with my mission, my purpose, my job, thing which I'm created for, the thing that makes me the most happiest, the most satisfied, the most gratified. That's where I see it. And, again, I can do that uh, with some James Cleveland. I could do it with some Marvin Gaye. But, and you know what? I'm telling you, man, my life has been so much richer since I've learned to see God that way. It's just like, I don't see it as like I used to, like it's a stick on me, you better do it this way, you better do it this way. That was a hard life. It was a hard life. Even in my most dedicated times in church, that was always that underlying thing in me. that had God just judging me and, kicking me in the ass, anytime I slipped up. Or me trying to be something more than I was, more importantly. Uh, but now I'm cool with who I am. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying to get better. I am, of course, but I strive, yet I'm content. I strive to get better, yet I'm content with where I am because I'm still going to live in this moment. It's the only moment I got. And guess what? I don't know what's on the other side of this life, but I do know that based on today where I am, I can live with it. I can live with it and I can die with it and I'll be okay. I'm okay with the results of that. Okay. So circling all the way back, when I asked the Reverend in part 1 of this series, hey, what happens to people who don't know about Jesus? And as I close, I'll say this, hey, again, God knows his name. So if you know, I don't care whether it's Buddha, Muhammad, whatever, if it's true, if it's tried, if you just was like, hey, I don't know who to call you or what to call you, but I know I ain't make these trees and I'm living in this beautiful ocean, this beautiful sky, somebody did it. Then guess what? I believe God knows his name. God knows his name. And he don't need me to define it. But I can enjoy it. I can enjoy it through my experiences, through shared experiences with you. And the last thing I want to read, if you'll allow me, is there is a quote from John Lewis that I saw today. Let me see, I'm gonna pull it up on my phone. I saw that this was part of his op-ed. Let me see it. It's part of his op-ed that he had in the New York Times today. And this is what he said. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. I'm going to read this one more time. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. Now, when I read this morning, it made me say to myself, okay, now I'm ready to do this episode. I actually done this episode a couple other times, but I wasn't satisfied that I was saying what was really on my heart. But between some other preparations that I did since, and when I read that statement this morning, that let me know right there. That's it. Now you're ready. That is God to me. And however way that ends up being expressed in this earth, then that's your part. That's your being caught up in the universe, in the flow. And anything beyond that is going against it. And when you go against it, then the universe can't help you get to where you need to go. It's going to keep pushing you back to where you should go. So, hey, with that, I thank you for taking this time with me. Again, subscribe if you like the channel. Hey, peace, love. Hope you all find your place as well. And hey, be encouraged. Be encouraged. Every day that you're here, there's another chance to get it right. Hey, love you. Thank you for being with me again. And hey, keep it real. Blessings.